Hello everyone, welcome to Speedonomics, learn with speed and clarity. Today's topic is Introduction to Economics. The basic objectives of this video will be to look into the definition of economics. After that, we'll see what are the various problems that every economy faces regardless of its characteristic nature. Then we're going to analyze about the scarcity of resources and the choice that an individual or a society has to make. Later, we'll look into different types of resources and output. Finally, we are going to see what are the basic questions or the central problems that every economy has to face.
The term economics has been defined by different economists from time to time. This is the reason why we don't have a single particular definition for economics. This is also the reason why Frederick Zuthen, an eminent economist, says economics is an unfinished science. What does he mean by unfinished science? It is a branch of science that is still under the process of growth and development, and therefore it is not possible to give a single or exact definition for economics. The reason is, for example, take mathematics. Mathematics as a subject is 2500 years old, whereas the subject matter of economics is only 250 years old. So economics is a relatively younger branch of science compared to other branch of sciences. This is the reason why we don't have any exact definition, but in simple terms we can say economics as a study of production, distribution, consumption of goods and services. It also studies how resources are allocated by individuals, businesses, governments and nations. Next, we have a problem. What kind of problem is it? It is an economic problem. Is it a problem which is only faced by economies around the world? It is also faced by individuals like us too, because we have limited resources but unlimited desires and wants. For example, let's take you graduate and you go for your first job. Many of us have dreamt of buying different kinds of things with our first salary. Some of you want to get a car, some of you want to get a motorcycle, some of you want to get a fancy designer clothes. So depending upon the individual, the needs and wants varies. But do we have enough resources to satisfy all our wants? Definitely not. This is the reason why there is scarcity. Why do we have scarcity of resources? Because there is only a limited amount of productive resources, which are land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. Let's study in detail about the types of productive resources in the upcoming slides. So coming back to the problem of scarcity, why do we have scarcity? Because there are limited resources and unlimited wants. How do we solve the problem of scarcity? We decide to choose. For example, you would like to buy both a motorcycle and a car, but right now you only have enough resources to buy a motorcycle. So you go ahead and you buy a motorcycle and you get satisfied with it. Buying a motorcycle will also give you a satisfaction because it was also among your list of wants. So in this case, what we're doing is allocated resources in such a way that we attain maximum satisfaction. This is the economic problem. Is it only your problem? As I had said earlier, this is faced by all kinds of economies around the world. Capitalistic economy, socialistic economy, and mixed economy. This problem is also faced by developing nations as well as developed countries. So let's go in depth into what are the different kinds of economy. There are three different kinds of economies: capitalist, socialist, and mixed economy. What is a capitalist economy? It is an economy in which the prices and production of goods and services is decided by corporation or private on the basis of competition. There will be very limited governmental intervention in this kind of economy. Next comes socialistic economy. This is exact opposite to the capitalist economy. In the capitalist economy, we could see that The prices and production is decided by corporations, whereas in a socialist economy, the society owns the factors of production. We could see major public sector undertakings or government run companies and cooperative companies in this kind of economy. The government has a very major role to play and influence in the market. Next comes the mixed economy. A mixed economy is a hybrid of both capitalist and a socialistic economy. In this kind of economy, both the government as well as the private firms coexist and influence the economic policies. So this is basically a combination of the free market economy in the capitalistic economy and the socialistic economy. That is, the government also has a major role to play in the market. The different examples that I would give for capitalistic, socialistic, and mixed economy are UK, North Korea, and India. Now, let's look into the types of resources. What are the different types of resources? The four important resources for any economy is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These four resources play an important role in the production of an economy. So, is land concerned only with soil? No. The various mineral resources, water resources, the climate that we enjoy, the forest resources all come under land resources. These are in short term a gift of nature. Next comes the labor resource. Labor is defined by the physical and mental ability of a person to do a particular job. This is measured by the time spent working during a particular period. Next is the capital resource. We'll see about this in the next slide. Next comes the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is a special human resource. Even though all the four resources are important, entrepreneur plays an important role in initiating production by combining all the other three types of resources. This is why we call entrepreneur as a special kind of resource. An entrepreneur is also involved in decision making, introducing innovations, and risks loss. Moving on to the different types of capital, we've already seen that capital resources helps in further production of goods and services. We've taken example of road where an efficient transportation system helps in efficient transportation of goods and services. So, as the capital formation increases every year, for example, we are starting at building roads in a city level and we are going to cover every nook and corner in every village. Then this is called capital formation. This capital formation can also be called as investment. As the amount of investment or capital formation increases every year, we can say that the stock of capital increases. Now let's see what is the difference between physical capital or real capital and financial capital, or also called money capital. Physical capital directly helps in the production of goods and services. For example, factory buildings and equipments. Whereas financial capital or money capital, which are nothing but our shares, bonds, and the money that we have, are indirectly helping in the production of goods and services. Using the money, we can buy equipments which can be used for production of goods and services. So you can see the indirect relationship between physical capital and financial capital. Hope you've understood the types of capital clearly. Next comes the types of output. The four different kinds of output are consumer goods, services, capital goods, raw materials, and intermediate goods. Consumer goods. Take for example an apple. You eat an apple today and it's gone. Next time you need an apple, you have to go and buy one once again. Whereas, take an example of a car. You travel today and come back, and next day when you need a car, it is still available for use. In this case, apple is a single-use good and car is a durable use good. Next, services. Services are also called intangible. Intangible means not measurable. For example, the services given by a teacher and a doctor all come under intangible services. Whereas consumer goods are tangible, which means the car and the apples are measurable. Next, capital resources. We've already seen in depth about capital goods, so let's move on to raw materials and intermediate goods. Take for example wheat. Wheat is an output of agricultural sector. Wheat is used for production of bread. Hence, you can see that wheat is a raw material for the bread sector, whereas it is an output of the agricultural sector. In this case, wheat acts as an intermediate good. Other examples are fertilizers, cement, and steel. Our last topic is basic questions or central problems of an economy. Central problems in the sense they are important problems that every economy faces. What to produce? We already know that there is scarcity of resources and hence a reasonable choice has to be made that gives us maximum possible satisfaction. So who makes this choice? The society. The society does not comprise of people alone. It also comprises of the companies, so the companies and the consumers interact and influence the choice of goods that is produced in an economy and the quantity of the goods that is produced. Let's take the classic example of gun or butter. A country has to ensure that its people are safe and hence it has to spend on military expenditure to keep its people safe. On the other hand, it is also a responsibility of a nation to ensure that the people are well fed. Hence, a country has to balance between military expenditure and food expenditure. Next, consumer good or capital good. Take for example, we buy a packet of milk or some apples, we consume it and it's gone. On the other hand, if we invest on roads, dams, building factories, it will help in further production of goods and services. So in this case, what do you think is the choice we should make? We cannot compromise on both because milk is a basic necessity and hence cannot be compromised. And on the other hand, capital goods help in further production of goods and services. So a balance has to be maintained in this case as well. And next comes necessities or luxuries. So when you have a choice between necessity and a luxury, you'll always choose a necessity first. But what happens when your necessities are satisfied? You'll go towards satisfying your luxuries. This is what happens in a national level too. As a country grows, its expenditure will shift from consumer goods to capital goods. Next, how to produce. This involves the choice of the technique that we are going to use for production. There are basically two major techniques. One in which we concentrate more on the labor and other technique is one in which there is a great amount of investment involved. So on the first technique, that is the labor intensive industries, it requires a large number of people working in the industry. Example, hospitality industry, agriculture industry and mining. Coming to capital intensive industries, these industries require high amount of investment, that is money and machinery, infrastructure, etc. to make profit. Examples of capital intensive industries are transportation industries, automobile manufacturing and telecom industries. By for whom to produce, we mean how output is going to be distributed among different sections of the society, the rich, the poor, the middle class, etc. What provision should be made for economic growth? In order for a country to maintain higher levels of economic growth, the productivity and efficiency should be high. This will contribute to a higher national income. Greater the national income of a country, the stronger the economy of the country will be. And how the national product is distributed among the members of the society or an economy. This depends upon the money income. How does one earn money income? Either from work, by salary, or from properties as rent or income. So, greater the money capacity of a person, greater is their purchasing power and greater will be their consumption. According to Karl Marx, he says that income should be distributed on the basis of each individual according to the ability and to the needs. Individual should also get income which is equal to the contribution that one makes towards the national production. What provision should be made for economic growth? As individuals, we all know that we should not consume all of our income. We keep some amount as savings so that it will help our consumption capacity in the future. So, in the same way for a country, we should not spend entire resources on consumption only. We have to invest some amount in the capital resources so as to increase the productive capacity in the future. Hence, greater the capital investment, greater will be the standard of living and the income of people. Let's take for example you have 100 rupees. Considering all your necessities are met at 50 rupees, you have remaining 50 rupees left. You can either go on consuming for the remaining 50 rupees also, or you can decide to invest on it for the future. The same thing happens on a national level. A country can either go on consuming or invest its resources in research and development and go for technological innovation, which will in turn reduce the cost of goods that are being produced today, which will not only be beneficial for the country but also the entire population and the economy. This is called cost of growth, that is, sacrificing current consumption to produce more capital goods and devote more resources for research and development and innovation. This is the dilemma in developing countries like India, where we cannot cut down on the consumption expenditure because consumption expenditures for satisfying the basic needs of the population, whereas capital expenditure is for building infrastructure. Capital expenditure is also essential for future production of goods and services. So it is very difficult to balance both, and hence we can see that there is more consumption expenditure than capital expenditure happening in our country. But in case of developed countries like UK, United States, you could see that the capital expenditure and consumption expenditure are somewhat balanced. The next video will be about production possibility curve. All the best, stay cool, stay focused. Bye bye.